Here we are again, League of Our Own, the penultimate episode of our second season. Goran Paladin and the Kiwi icon, assistant coach of the Kiwis. Blairy, great to see you as always. Which hotel do you find yourself in ahead of the Pacific Championships final this week, mate?
Always great to see you, Goran. And yeah, as you can see, I'm in some hotel room here in Homebush.
Nice.
Couple of projectors above my head. Like we spoke about last week, man, I'm just making do with what we have and where we can be to make sure that our show keeps kicking on, man. And
no rubbish bin this time around? No rubbish bin?
No rubbish bins. As the setup's a little bit easier. It's just sitting on the table, but I did have the exit sign behind me earlier, but we changed around now. I've got obviously all the hotel stuff above my head. So, grateful always to see you, Goran, and we just make this work with whatever we have.
It's like the classic gag of having 2 tin cans and a piece of string. Somehow we make it work, mate, and we do it for the love of the game and to give Kiwis out there something to get around in terms of supporting Kiwi Rugby League content. And that's exactly what we'll do because, as I say, you've got the small matter of a final coming up this Sunday against Samoa in the Pacific Championships. And I think we probably need to review what was an outstanding performance from your boys at Eden Park against Tonga. But in that game, and look, he's not a Kiwi, but he did find his rugby league feet with the New Zealand Warriors. And once a Warrior, you're always interested. And the guy I'm talking about is ELIESA Katoa. What happened to him on Sunday and his subsequent treatment, and the fact that he still finds himself in Auckland, can't fly. He had fluid drained off his brain. By now, I'm sure you've seen the vision. He got poleaxed by Lehigh Hopewati in the pre-game. 10 minutes in, he suffered another head knock. Later in the game, yet another head knock. And frightening scenes on the sideline that you were privy to, Blairy, as assistant coach of the Kiwis. How frightening, how shocking was it when you saw ELIESA Katoa get carted off to hospital, man?
Yeah, man. Goran, really disappointed in just rugby league in general, the game. The game has been growing so fast and so quickly, and there's been obviously protocols and steps being put in place to protect the welfare of our players. And so far back from when I was playing as well, that it was moving in the right direction. And again, if you've seen, like everyone else has seen, and we're hearing all the news about ELIESA Katoa, it's disappointing. It's obviously a sad thing to see. But it was hard to look at too, Goran. Some of the images that we saw through social media and some of the TV images that we saw as well and the videoing just didn't sit well. And I know Ali personally and closely, and like anything, everyone's going to say, we are tough players. All rugby league players are tough, and they would say, when you're representing your nation or your country, you put your body on the line for everything. But I just think we just went one step too far with Ali on that Sunday afternoon at Eden Park. And we saw the stuff on the sideline and the images of his face, the stress that he was under. But then also, obviously, all the stuff that happened on the sideline. Obviously, I'm on the sideline, Goran, and there's a lot of commotion going on, as well as obviously watching what we're doing as New Zealand and as the Kiwis with our football on the field. And I'm obviously the connection from our coaches to the ground, to our blue shirt, to our players. That my job's on the task ahead and making sure that I'm clear with the messaging and what's coming down. But at the corner of my eye, you saw the pictures or you saw the medicab and the people getting around him, and you knew something was up. I had a feeling we didn't know anything about what happened at the start of the game with Ali through the warm-up. But when he got his first HIA, I had a feeling that he was away from a longer than 15 minutes on the sideline, and whether they use it as an interchange or as a HIA. So I was already questioning if Ali was coming back on the field, not knowing obviously the previous incident. But man, to allow him, and I know we got professionals in the game, Goran. We've got people that should be doing their job, but on this day, their jobs weren't done properly. And it's a disappointing thing because anything can happen. And when you're messing around with the brain, and we hear a lot of stories about obviously past players and what they've had to go through those injuries from back in the day.
Yeah.
But we're in 2025, Goran. We're in 2025 when players need to be protected in their welfare. And I know some players can be tough at times, but this is one of those things that you don't want to be tough at, and you've got to take it away from the player in the moment. And especially, we saw the scenes of the warm-up and how heavy that knock was.
Yes.
And then seeing him on the ground stiff in motion, in a game, that's a category 1. You're out for the rest of the
100%.
game. So my question is maybe they can't, but maybe they should have in the end. The vision was there to be seen. The panels were speaking about it. That was a part of the build-up, the conversation around his head knock and how he was on the ground in stiff motion, where in a normal game, if you're on the field or at training, that's a category 1. Why weren't they given that images or that video work to the people in the Tongan team? So there'll be a lot of questions asked, and to be honest, people need to be held accountable. It's one of these players that people put themselves on the line for the game every single day that they train, every single time that they put their foot on the field. They put their body on the line for the game of rugby league, and they love what they do. But this incident just wasn't a good look for the game.
3 groups of people that I want to talk about and get your thoughts on, mate. And you've touched on it a little bit in that opening spiel. First of all, the players. Second of all, the Tongan officials. So the yellow shirt trainer who was immediately there taking care of Ali. And then obviously the doctors and the coaching staff. And then third, the Sky Sport production team. So initially, the players. I don't think you can put any kind of blame on Lehigh Hopewate or Eliesa Katoa himself, because they put their trust in the people around them to do right by them. We saw the vision. It looked horrific. But Ali is going to rely on the people who do the testing and tell him you're okay to play or not. And it's not Lehigh Hopewate's responsibility to say, look, mate, I think you should actually sit this game out. Especially when it's like such an important fixture. You know what was at stake. It was basically a semi-final encounter at Eden Park, Blairy. You win the game, you go to the final. And so the players aren't going to rule themselves out without the guidance of a medical professional. How the Tongan team itself didn't ascertain that he was in grave danger, that's, I think, the fault of the host broadcaster. And look, you and I have been involved in television production before. We've worked with Sky Sport before, and they run a really tight ship. There are so many people that go into a game day broadcast like what we saw on Sky Sport at the weekend. However, there is a direct link to the teams, especially in the warm-ups, and on a sort of peek behind the curtain a little bit. On a game day like that, you will probably be running 2 floor managers. One that sort of deals primarily with the fronting crew, and then someone who runs around behind the scenes dealing with the teams and making sure that they're lined up for interviews or getting ready to exit the sheds in time for the anthems and all that sort of carry on. So you've got people in the truck who are assessing all of the vision, and then you've got people who have these connections with the team. I reckon that if they've found the time to locate the vision of Ali, make sure that they're using it for their broadcast, they needed to use those floor managers to contact the Tongan team and say, we've actually got vision of it. We can show it to your team doctor. We can show it to the independent doctor, and you can make a really good assessment on what you want to do with Ali. So, but between those 2 entities, those 2 groups, I think they could have come to a better conclusion before kickoff to help the guy out. But what we saw, and you said it so well, like he looked like he'd gone 10 rounds with the heavyweight champion of the world by the time he was carted off on that medicab, and we shouldn't have got to that point, Blairy.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of people, Goran, and whether it's the Tongan staff, whether it's the production crew, the broadcasters, if you have time, again, he would have been a highlight package of Ali being so dominant this year for the Melbourne Storm and his efforts around catching and jumping for high balls, i.e. hence why he's out doing kick-catch. Normally, typically, Goran, kicking and catching are for outside backs and halves pre-game. warm up before the forwards come out. He doesn't come out with the forwards because he's a target in the air when he's catching the ball. So he goes out and gets some reps in. So the production crew would be sticking some vision around his work and what he does, and they've clearly pictured that and got that on vision, and then they've spoken to the incident as well.
Yeah.
So everyone, whether it was the people in New Zealand, whether it was the guys in Australia, they have direct links to people within the broadcasting area to be able to press and just say, hey, I think that this should be looked at, or make a phone call, get online. Like everyone talks, everyone talks. So I just think there's a lot of people that let the game down and let Ellie down on Sunday afternoon at Eden Park, and where we were going so good for so long and welfare around our players. This has put a real a dent in the game, and it's going to be spoken about for a long time, I think. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to be involved in this. There'll be some investigations, but so should there be. A lot of people let Ellie down and the game of rugby league down on Sunday afternoon, and prayers and I guess love goes to Ellie and his family. A special kid, a special talent. Has done so many good things in his short career at this moment, and hopefully we can see him back out on the field really quickly and soon.
To the game itself, you honestly, when we spoke about what you wanted to achieve against Tonga in that semi-final encounter at Eden Park, you basically ticked them all off, mate. You wanted a fast start, you got that. You wanted to dominate them physically, we absolutely saw that. We saw some up-tempo play, KEANO KINI at fullback and the little rejig that you went through there, Chance in the centre, Casey out on the wing, absolutely brilliant. The second phase, impact off the bench, like tick, 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 tick. Bravo, mate. Like how satisfied were you and everybody in black at the conclusion of that 80 minutes, mate?
Man, Goran, we spoke about all three nations too, and how world class the teams are all around, and the three of them. But I get the luxury to be involved in the Kiwis and be able to be beside I think the best forward packer and going around. I think when you look at the likes of the players that we have that started, you got the Bash Bros, obviously 4-time winner premierships. Like there is no two other front rowers that have gone through the work that they have put through for their clubs and now their country, the way that they do it. Joseph Tapine, we've spoken about him, right up there with Payne us 1 and 2. Depending who you're talking to. I think he's elite. And then you've got the likes of Phoenix Crossland, who just seemingly just put himself into that space and seems to play with a lot of, in our Māori terms, mana when he puts on the black jersey and the intensity of what they're playing at. You got Dylan Brown, and then you spoke about the kid, the two kids, Casey and KEANO KINI, who just look like they've just having some fun out there playing in the backyard. But like you said, important messages around, our start was important. Obviously being able to go another gear, not just being able to just turn up and match them, but go above them. And as part of the staff and obviously our country, very proud of what they've done and where they're heading towards, because again, we'll speak about later, the game that's coming up is just as big, if not bigger.
Yeah, well, let's focus on the review before the preview. KEANO KINI and his injection in the fullback position. I'm so impressed by him, not only his play on the field, but for what he's saying off it. We were very, very close to losing him completely from the game. I saw a story on NRL.com, I think it was yesterday, and he was 4 millimeters away from never walking again. That's how serious his neck injury was. Yet here he is, back in the NRL, back in the Kiwis, carving up against Tonga. We're so lucky. And he was saying things like, it could have been really dire. What happened to me could have been, like quality of life would have diminished out of sight. But here he is. He's made a silver lining out of a dark cloud. He's got married. He's had a kid. He's actually had some really good things happen off field through this terrible time, and he feels blessed to be back in the Kiwis jersey. So, I'm as much as I love watching him play, I love hearing those comments because he's grounded and he's grateful for what he's got. And yeah, that's the sort of person I can really get in behind, Blairy. Really special individual.
Well, I spoke about it last week on an episode that he's the future, of the Kiwis moving forward. He's going to be around for a long time, and you just think when you watch him play, similar to like Reece Walsh, kind of, obviously different attributes, but man, that smaller fullback that just moves fast and always injects himself into plays. Where you think about, in test match footy, a lot of big players, a lot of big middle, strong middles. And when the game style that the Kiwis want to play with the talent that they have across the middle of the park, it's prime for someone like KEANO KINI with his feet and his speed and his braveness and toughness around the middle of the park, because there are 100 plus kilo blokes in the middle of the park that he has to try and weave and maneuver himself through. But he's one of the bravest, smallest halfbacks fullbacks that have played the game, because man, he does everything at 100% and he finds himself busy throughout the game non-stop. And mate, he's a quality kid. And mate, he just added that X factor to the Kiwis on Sunday.
From one of the smallest guys that you'll find on the field to close to one of the biggest. You spoke about the Bash brothers, but what about the impact off the bench from your forward rotation? And Naufahu Whyte was epic. 55 minutes. He damn near ran for 200 metres. He was just steamrolling and rampaging everybody in red. And look, I think if you asked anybody in Australia, they would say that James Tedesco dragged the Roosters into the playoffs. But I think you and I and most Kiwis would know that it was actually Naufahu who dragged the Roosters into playoffs reckoning when they probably had no right to be there. A crazy good year, and he's capping it off with the Kiwis at exactly the right time. And it wasn't just him. Aaron Clark was good, even though he got sin-binned just before half-time. And Xavier Willison on debut, I thought, was outstanding as well, mate. You must have been really, really pleased with the impact from your forwards off the bench, mate.
Well, to be honest, Goran, those three players can start in any team. They can start in any team. And the quality of the players, it's like you got your starting pack on the bench as well. So when you think about the game of rugby league, and it's always great to start the game really well, but it's when that change comes onto the field, meaning your impact forwards, that you go up another gear, or you match what's already been happened, or you lift to go up another gear and keep driving that momentum in the game. And those forwards you mentioned, Naufahu, 18th man in 2023 Pacific Championships. Last year, 2024, I thought he was our best front rower in the game for New Zealand. And then he's just grown another leg at Roosters. He's become their enforcer, but he's a bit of a quiet assassin the way he goes about his business. Not really that Jared Waerea-Hargrave type where he wants to come out and do things. He's all actions. He's got an engine on him. And the way that he plays, and again, like he's another person alongside Xavier who are going to have long careers in the black jersey. Xavier Willison, again, a little bit of X factor, a lot taller, got an offload in him. Some of those things, when we talk about the second phase, you said it earlier, you speak about the second phase, it comes with the intent that you have when you carry the ball. And when you see the six of them together when they play this style of football, they got great feet. They find themselves in between defenders. They've got an offload, all six of them. It's not really been spoken about, the offload, but when you have intent in the way you carry, those things come naturally to some of our players. And you saw that work for us, stripping, obviously, the Tongan on the edge, with getting the ball to KEANO KINI and then finding Brittany Court on the edge as well. So, man, some great talent coming through, and all young boys as well, Goran.
Yeah, no doubt, mate. It's probably hard for you to look at the opposition when you're so keenly focused on the Kiwis and what they're doing and trying to get them ready for next week. But Demetric Vaimauga, he had a nice little moment there, some really good defence with a turnover, and then not long after that secured a try for himself. And we've spoken about Demetric through the year. He's somebody who is growing all the time, growing in confidence and ability and stature. And there he is, he's trying to be the enforcer after half time, and it worked for him, in that occasion. And yeah, another guy that is young, but really impressive and had a really nice moment there out on the field at Eden Park.
Have had him and obviously Leka Halasima through the Warriors have had a great season, and both have X factor about him. Demetric loves to go after the contests. Leka similar as well. So great to see him have his little moment on the field at international football, because again I think him and Leka alongside the Warriors and obviously then playing for their nation have got a bright future. And when you think about the World Cup in 2026, those two boys will be a big part of that Tongan team going forward for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of the World Cup, I feel like this match at Combank Stadium, Sunday at 6 o'clock for Kiwis, it could potentially be a World Cup grand final preview. I mean, Aussies aren't going to like that, and the Poms and the Tongans aren't going to like it. But from what I saw a few weeks ago in the first round of the Pacific Championships, the Kiwis and Samoa, they are two very evenly matched teams. They've got flair, they've got power, they've got some of the biggest names in the game. When I think about that first round match, it could have gone either way. You know,
Yep.
People are probably still talking about Dylan Brown's try or no try, or the fact that Brian To'o and Dean Mariner both dropped the ball with the try line gaping. So that result could have gone either way. Plus, your two teams that absolutely put Tonga to the sword. So what happens in this game? And what do you take from the Tongan win that you want to try and replicate against Samoa that maybe you didn't do in that first round match?
I think every day for our boys and our players is an opportunity to keep connecting as individuals and as a group. The importance around rugby league is being able to understand each other's game style and combinations and working together. The longer, I guess, the weeks go on, which is we're coming to the end, the better the connection and the relationship between each other becomes. So, which then becomes obviously second nature when you come into games. So, for us, again, it's about making sure that, I guess, more so the off-field preparation, Goran. I think it's the off-field preparation, because you can get easily distracted with, obviously, the noise. The great thing about it, Goran, is New Zealand hasn't been spoken about for the last, I guess, since the Pacific Nations started. Besides Game 1, it's all been about Tonga and Samoa and how important that those two games have been for them, the crowd, wanting more games against each other, putting it in the middle of the year and all that talk. So we've been kind of like the dark horse sitting in the background, where we've just gone about our business, but understanding the job ahead of us. So quietly confident, but like anything, Goran, this game could go either way. Preparation is key, connection is key on the field, and whether we thought we can't get complacent with what we did last week, we've got to go up another gear again. And understanding that when you think about the Samoan team that's in front of us, some quality players all over the park. And if you go over the last performance, you know, their middle forwards laid a platform. Junior Barlow did his thing and helped, obviously, their edges with the way they attack. So threats all over the park, running halves, but also got some skill through the middle of the park as well. But I could say that about the Kiwi team as well, Goran, is that, man, and these teams match up. These teams match up. It's going to be physical. Speak to a few of the boys after the first game. Like they said, I think the ball was in play for 60 minutes of a game, longer than an NRL match. Yeah. And the boys were most probably felt like that was the hardest, physical game that they've ever played in. And it's going to be no different come Sunday night. It's going to be a war of attrition. It's the best team that stays with the game plan for the longest and waiting for the opposition to crack that's going to get the win.
We always talk about key players. You know, if this person stands up, then the Kiwis win. Or if you shut down person X in the opposition, then that is basically winning the game. Give us two names. Who are they? Samoa, Kiwis.
Oh man, that's a hard question, Goran, because like you and I know, and the fans know, and the people that listen in, that the game's won in the middle of the park. The game's won in the middle of the park. I think on the back of someone like Junior Barlow, Goran, because I think he adds a little bit of versatility around his skill level, and I think he can ball play a lot better than Payne Haas. Payne Haas is someone that's just going to come for 80 minutes and continuously just keep running the ball. Junior Barlow can actually give an offload to. He's got good late feet. He's a strong defender. He can carry forward when he needs to carry, but he can also tip the ball onto his outside backs to give them the space. So I think through the middle of the pack, that's where the threats are going to be. So someone like Junior Barlow up against, someone like Joseph Tapani. A couple of the biggest forwards in the game that have done so much for both nations going up against each other. But alongside both of them, they're going to have their support. They're going to have their brother next to them. So you win the battle in the middle of the park. You shut down someone like Junior Barlow. The same with us on the other side. You shut down the middle of the park. Doesn't allow someone like Dylan Brown or KEANO KINI to be able to exploit those areas of weaknesses.
I'm stoked you mentioned Junior. Under Jason Riles at the Eels, he's actually gone through a physical transformation. We've known him to be, a larger, rounder kind of prop forward. But, I think most people know that the game has changed and you can't afford to carry somebody who is carrying that much size, and a lack of mobility was probably going to count against Junior. And he shed the kilos, didn't he? I think he dropped something like 10 or 15 kilos, something crazy in that sort of ballpark. And look at him now. He's playing in the middle of the park, smoking guys like, was it Sonny Luke a few weeks back? He's having like a bit of a renaissance late in his career because of this new direction, and it probably could have gone one of two ways. He says to Jason Riles, "No, look, this is how I've played. This is what my body weight's always been. I'm going to stay the course." And maybe he, loses his way, but he went down the path of the new coach, and look at him now. Kiwis though, mate. Kiwis. Who is the guy that is going to lead you to the promised land and win the Pacific Championships? Back the horse, mate. Who is it?
Well, I think our best player has been Dylan Brown. Our best player has been Dylan Brown on the field from an attacking point of view. And again, if the forwards are getting momentum through the middle of the park, you saw what he did last week and the weekend before that when he played against Samoa. He plays a pivotal part in what the Kiwis do and the success that they're going to have on Sunday. So for me, it's Dylan Brown.
I love seeing the running game from Dylan Brown. Always have, always will. And when you see that and know that he's going to be part of your Newcastle Knights next year, that must make you very pleased.
Well, I think the biggest question with that, Goran, is that he's amongst a world-class forward pack. And it makes a lot of difference when you've got the class of that he has around him to be able to play his style. We know what Dylan Brown can do, and you said his running game's second to none in the competition as a 6. And when you've got a forward pack like he does, man, you'd be chomping at the bit to play off the back of it if you're any half. And he's been able to light it up over this Pacific Champs and through as an attack and as a running game. So, the trick is for him is to try and get that up at the Knights. That'll be awesome.
All right, Blairy, time for Betcha This Happens for the final of the Pacific Championships. Kiwis, Samoa for the cup. All right.
Yes.
I actually liked what I did last week, even though the bet didn't come in. I had Kiwis 13 plus, ding. I had Chance Nickel-Klukstar for anytime try scorer, ding. And I had Casey McLean for first try scorer. He did score a try, but it was KEANO who scored the first. So didn't come in, but I like those areas, mate. I like those areas.
Yeah, nice. I liked it.
This is where I'm going this week for the final. I'm very confident. I hope that you guys carry that same attitude, the same approach into the Samoan match. So I'm doing something crazy. New Zealand to win by 13 plus. Ooh. Yeah, you're going to blow them out. So that's the first leg of our multi, which is paying $3.40 on the Betcha app. Anytime try scorer, I'm going to go Casey McLean. He's at $1.88. I feel like it's bound to happen. Yeah, just got to lock the kid in. So we'll put him in at $1.88. And then for our first try scorer this week, will lightning strike twice, Blairy?
Ooh, it's got to be close to it.
Okay, well, let's get in behind KEANO KINI, paying $15 for first try scorer. That gives us odds of $54.44. We'll put a couple of dollars on that and get just a little bit more than $100 to celebrate a Kiwis Pacific Championships win, Blairy. Bring it home, mate. Bring it home.
Sounds great, brother. Sounds great.
All the very best for it, mate. I hope it goes well for you on Sunday out there at Parramatta. And regardless, mate, like, the Kiwis have represented the country so very, very well to this point anyway. So just continue to do what you're doing.
Yeah, quietly confident, Goran, that our boys will go up another gear. And yeah, like you said, it's been a pretty cool journey, this Pacific Champs, and to watch some of the individuals grow, to watch some of the older guys get around the young boys that are coming out for all those nations that have lost players in between, and being able to bring players in from outside, and them actually wanting to be a part of the success or being in camp has been a great experience. So quietly confident we'll bring that trophy home and get the win on Sunday at, I guess it's 4 p.m. here, 6 in New Zealand. Exciting times. The game's growing with World Cup around the corner. New Zealand's team seems to be growing in numbers, and there's some kids on the horizon, and can't wait for this one, man.
And you know what? Afterwards, we'll do our final league of our own for the season, which will be what? Episode 36?
Wow.
Somehow we've gone through, well, this will be 35, and yeah, next week 36. So a bittersweet moment, mate. We'll be hopefully celebrating a Pacific Championships win, but also doing our final podcast, and then I won't be bothering you for a few months.
Well, you don't have to stay up late and wait for me to jump online in your time. So, you know, we'll get to the end, but we'll hopefully be back next week celebrating, hopefully with a big smile on my face.